Greetings. If you came to this slideshow, this video through David Rayburn's podcast with me, this is Marc Mullinax. Thank you for showing up. I hope that this can extend the conversation and feel free to contact me for more information. I've been thinking about how the church is to exist in anxious times, and we seem to be in much more anxious times than usual. So how do we position our congregation in an election year in which all kinds of changes and interruptions may happen? So here's a proposal, and take it as you wish. Contact me if you'd like more conversation. Remember November, December 2016, where you were, what you're feeling, how the fear, the uncertainty, where's my community, how do I relate now? This is what prompted me to present this to my church council, say, we got a big increase of people in those 2 months trying to figure out, what do I do now? Who am I? Who are we? What kind of place are we? And I'd like for us to be much more intentional for these new visitors so that they can then say, this church is a resource for uncertain times. Does my congregation have the will and the vision to become more visible in 2020? Not every church will. That's okay. But if so, how would you like to do it? For example, for some congregations that I know, if number 45 wins again in November, they're going to have to start realigning and readjusting their messages. What is good news mean? What does the vision of being church in 2020-21 mean? And what kind of spiritual practices does it mean to live after the resurrection in a post-Easter world in these days? But I remind you at the beginning, this is my epigraph. I take this from the Message. This is Jesus speaking, and I think he's quite correct. Here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We are going public with this, as public as a city on the hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I put you there on the hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. Marinate on that. If you are a church, your message is hope. How do we practice that? How do we message that? How do we bring that as good news today? And if so, we decide to go this way. What's the tone? What's the message? How public do we go? How high a light stand do we build? Option one is we are made for these times, and you can stop this video after you click on the link in We Are Made for These Times and read the entire poem by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. But the idea here is that we are the people that we are waiting for, and we don't need to do much more than just show up, link arms, and be present. She writes, ours is a time of almost daily astonishment and often righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters most to civilized visionary people. Yet I urge you, ask you, gentle you, to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially do not lose hope. Most particularly because the fact is that we were made for these times. For years we have been learning, practicing, and been in training for and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. Again, the full poem is on the previous slide at the hyperlink. Another hyperlink, remember who we were, remember who we are. Joy Harjo in her poem that's linked here, Call Your Spirit Back. Call your spirit back. It may be caught in corners and creases of shame, judgment, and human abuse. You must call in a way that your spirit will want to return. Welcome your spirit back from its wandering. It may return in pieces and tatters. Gather them together. They'll be happy to be found after being lost for so long. Now you can have a party. Invite everyone you know who loves and supports you. Keep room for those who have no place to go. Then you must do this. Help the next person find their way through the dark. And I think, oh, fellow Christian congregations, this is exactly who we are, what we're made for, to help the next person find their way through the dark. After all, did not someone help you do the same thing? Option 3 is simple. There's always a better story than the one dominating now. Find the story on the news if you dare turn on the television. Whatever story is happening, whatever signals are going out, there's a deeper story that we can get. Our traditions are rich. They're rich enough. Our friends are broad and deep enough. And together they give us a much better story than one of scarcity, than one of war, than one of violence, than one of hatred. There's a better story out there, and we need to practice this story aloud, proud, or in private. In other words, build the capacity to bring a better world through a better story. Option 4 is hateful Christianity is an oxymoron. This is quite simple but hard to practice because some progressive and liberals I have heard can be as unforgiving, judgmental, hateful, and dismissive as anyone else. And this is not our mission. We need to be known for being the non-haters, the non-blamers, the non-disdainers. We need to be the ones who are known for forgiveness, for acceptance, for openness. Can I get a witness? This is by Wendell Berry in his poem, the Farmers Almanac. So, be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. Practice joy. Don't let your deep joy get overshadowed by anything else. Protect your joy. That is your jewel. That is your refuge. Practice joy. Option 6 is that people, whether they're in a congregation or not, need to understand they don't have to figure everything else by themselves. They're not alone. There are people who can share the load. And there may be people who feel like you do, but even so, you're not alone. And that message, I think, is so crucial and critical for these days. Not alone. Option 7 may not be for everyone, but it's a kind of faith-informed resistance. This is the bagman from 1989, Tiananmen Square. You got a subversive Jesus, but how does your faith help you resist? Even if it is resisting turning on the TV, even if it's resisting an argument, what does that look like? A faith that resists being turned into that which we do not like. Because faith-informed resistance means an intentional misfitting, which is very faithful, an intentional misfitting into our culture. Not joining the reigning culture so Tetris-like, but instead approaching our culture with grace, forgiveness, critiques, yes, but not with disdain. For different congregations, that will look different for everyone. Your history will decide what you do. I'm not talking about just taking things easily to the street, unless that's already part of your DNA. Most congregations may need to discern their own ways to resist and be misfits today, and that could be an unusually brilliant, stimulative, creative conversation for many a congregation. Option 8 is to reimagine what mercy looks today. Mercy is in short supply. What if mercy is the most abundant thing out there and we just haven't realized it yet? So what would leading with grace and humility look like? You can start by asking, why is mercy so much better than leading with judgment and criticism? Any parent will know that you cannot raise a healthy child with judgment and criticism, but you lead with mercy. Yes, we do need the critiques, but can we critique even the way we have done our critiques? 9, I live in Asheville where there was an old meme 15 years ago. by a conservative congregation that said, "We still pray." But instead of "we still pray," what if we transform that meme into a "we still believe"? And this could be some churches' perfect response to these times. This would be your conversation, your intramural conversation about what it is, who it is that you believe in. How do you believe it? What does that belief look like? What does it look like with feet on the ground, rubber on the road? Be not afraid. This is the message of many a song in the Christian tradition. It's the words of Jesus almost every time he meets up with people. It's the words of the angel every time they come to earth. Be not afraid. Put that on your refrigerator. Put that on your bathroom mirror as your mantra. Be not afraid. And let that lead you into a conversation with other faithful people about how that looks like and how that could go public. Option 11. Where do you see Jesus today? Most of us see Jesus locked in a Bible, up in heaven, living way back when. But what if, according to Matthew 25:31-46, the so-called sheep and goats parable, everything that we do to someone else is exactly what we do to Jesus? So what does it mean to actually see Jesus alive today? Would he be an immigrant on death row, living on the streets? What if we joined him there? That is, does a homeless Jewish refugee agitator executed by the state have anything to say today? What wisdom could we bring out from this person? Option 12. This is a kind of meme or a slogan your church might use. And of course, you'd insert your own congregation's name here. Faith over politics since whatever year. And that would be a way of advertising what you're not for and what you are for. You don't have to use the word politics. You could say fear. But this could be the kind of public campaign you could adapt for your congregation and what you would be then known for in your community. Bridges take engineers, but so do walls. We already have enough walls that have been engineered. So may we learn the spiritual engineering for these days to build bridges, not the walls. Option 14 is kind of like number 7, that resistance has a faith home in your hometown. It has a faith home, an address in your hometown. You don't have to use resistance. You could substitute no fear has a faith home. Radical acceptance has a faith home. Welcoming strangers, or whatever you choose. So I'll leave that with you just to take and run with it if you like. By the way, these ideas are yours to take. They are not mine. I do not own any of them. You're ready. You can take them and run with them. And I'd be very happy if you send me some feedback about what you've done. Option 15. There's a lot of crap in the world. I think the Christian is to be like an earthworm who gets below into the humus that is the ground, the humus, the human. We get into the down and the dirty, and like an earthworm, we turn crap into fertilizer. That is our mission. That is our job. Ever since year 1, churches have done that already, taking the down and out, the sick, the homeless, the imprisoned, the hopeless, and we take that crap and we transfigure it. We resurrect it into new stuff. We take that crap and we turn it into a garden. I love number 16, Rachel Held Evans. I actually saw her before she died. But the church has always seemed like a sanctuary. So let us focus upon exactly what it is that we want to treasure, to hold. What are we going to protect? So what if every church became a place where everyone was safe? No one's comfortable, Imagine if every church became a place where we told another the truth. We might just create sanctuary. And that could be a way in which you become known to others as a different kind of congregation and a different kind of conversation. We all know that there's a lot of churches out there that are just same old, blending into the same old wallpaper and sounding like everyone else. This kind of presentation to you is a call to become distinctive, to remember one's Christian distinctives. So, as Tolkien says, hope remains while the company is true, because we are an and yet people. We take things and we say and yet, or but yet, because the period is not the last word. The period on a sentence is not on any conversation is not the last word, because we live in a grieving, violent, unfair, fearful world. We're told to hush. We're told that we're worthless. We may be told that we're foolish. But the Christians say, and yet there is more hope. And yet there is more life. And yet there is more healing. And yet there is more grace. And yet there is more fill in the blank. Because fear is contagious. But I believe faith, hope, and love are just as contagious. Two faith bodies have done this. I've done some research, only two that I know of, and both of them are in the Washington, D.C. area. The stthomasdc.org church has done this. The president said, what? And that could give a kind of signal to people that says, this is a safe place where we can talk about hard issues. The place is also in D.C. It's a Sojourners community. And they have their campaign is Reclaiming Jesus in a Time of Crisis, and they have written up a kind of declaration in the Barman Declaration style. It's very, very useful. I do recommend it. But it's a confession of faith in a time of crisis, and it starts off, "We disbelieve X," and then it says, "We believe Y, and here's why." And it's a fascinating. So I hope you will go online and try to find the Sojourners Reclaiming Jesus Confession of Faith. And these are two ways that I've seen churches do this so far. Send me your campaigns. So, what might our role be in this year, in this time of coronavirus, in this time of presidential election? How shall we develop it among our congregations, intramurally, inside, but also, what if we went public? As Jesus asks us in the Sermon on the Mount, going public with this. So thanks for your time. You may contact me at the email for any kind of conversation. I'll be glad to be in conversation with you as you develop these things. Again, I am not a church developer. I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this to see change for the good. Thanks so much.